Good evening, everybody. Monday Morning Quarterback, episode 176. Happy to be back with you all after a nice little break there through the holidays and shootout and Chili Bowl. And we've got a bunch of great programs planned for you guys here the next handful of weeks. Some good topics. Some of them are going to be filmed in the shop. I think next week we're doing how to properly mount shock adjuster cables. So we're going to show you right in our race shop how we mount cables, how we recommend to do that. The next one's how a shock adjusts. We get a lot of questions about that, so we're going to do a deep dive in that so you understand when you're clicking your shocks what's actually happening inside of the shock. Tires, do's and don'ts, that's a hot topic right now. Tires, do's and don'ts. 5 items you shouldn't race without. And then the last one to kick off this next little block of Monday Morning Quarterbacks is how to properly take care of your torsion bars. Obviously, they can't be rebuilt like a shock, but we're going to talk about some things you can do to keep your torsion bars in as nice a shape as possible. So those are what's coming up. Tonight's topic is 5 key traits to a successful crew chief. So if you're a team owner and you are wanting to hire a crew chief, these are things that should be paramount, top of the list. If you're a crew chief looking to get better, listen to what we have to say. And this information that I'm going to talk about tonight, it's not because I'm the world's best crew chief by any means, but I've been really blessed to work for a number of great teams throughout my whole career, through sprint car stuff, IndyCar, NASCAR, and I've worked with some really good leaders and some really good crew chiefs. And then here at CSI, I've had the fortune to work alongside a lot of good crew chiefs and help them with their suspension program and seeing things that they do really well and how that has helped elevate the performance of their race team. So we'll jump right into this. The number one thing on my list is organization, or being organized. The most important thing with a race team is being organized. That's number one to me. From top to bottom, the teams who have the best organization are usually championship contenders. That doesn't just mean the race car. You have to be organized in your notes, in your setups, service cycles on parts, when certain things are wearing out so you don't have DNFs, all the way down to maintenance on the truck and trailer and the generator, what hotels you're going to be staying at. Everything must be really well thought out and super organized. If the car ends up in the work area, having your spares pre-built. When you pull an engine out from underneath the cabinet, that it's fully dressed and ready to drop in the race car. Same thing, you pull a rear end out in a panic, you have a rear end fail, the rotor's on it, the brakes are on it, it's ready to go. All of that stuff being organized during the off season, making sure your parts are ordered plenty in advance, so all that stuff times out, and when the season starts, you guys have everything you need and you're ready to hit the road. That's the number one most important to me. The rest of these really aren't in any particular order, but number 2 would be leadership. The job's more than just being good at tuning a race car, believe it or not. And so being a good leader is very important. Every team needs a good leader, and it's vital to the success of your race team. The driver needs a cheerleader and someone he can trust, and the team all needs to be pulling the rope the same direction. And that all comes at the directive of being a really good leader. If the crew chief isn't a good leader, he just isn't a good crew chief, in my opinion. You need to be a good leader. Number 3, a student. This one will confuse some, but if your crew chief isn't a student of the game, meaning he isn't constantly studying his competitors and his own race car, he'll never get better, the race car won't get any faster. The sport is ever evolving, and what worked a few years ago just isn't good enough anymore. You have to be constantly trying to get better, or you'll get past. It's simple as that. The best crew chiefs are always thinking about how to get better. They're studying notes. They're studying what their competitors are doing. They're studying their race car and seeing if there's any little thing they can do. Things are so refined anymore. There's not one thing you're going to change on your race car that's going to take you from a 10th place runner to winning constantly. It's a series of small things that can help bridge that gap to to victory lane, and your crew chief has to be constantly studying every aspect of the race team. Number four is awareness. Seems simple enough, but it is really important. The track is always changing, especially if you're a dirt track team. Track's always changing. Even asphalt racing, as track temps change, it's changing. And the crew chief really needs to be aware of what's happening at all times. He's the guy who has to make the right adjustments at the right time to get the car in victory lane and get your picture taken at the end of the night. And he needs to be really aware of what's going on. You don't see top crew chiefs in line getting a hot dog when the trophy dash is on the track if his car's not in it. No, he's up there watching what the fast guys are doing, what their cars look like, paying attention to how the track's changing so he can make the correct adjustments to his race car to put his driver in as best a position as possible. Number 5 is communication. And outside of organization, this might be second on my list as far as order of importance. The crew chief needs to be an outstanding communicator. They're going to have to communicate with the driver, with the crew, with a car owner, and even sometimes with a sponsor. And they're going to have to be able to communicate in a good, positive way, be very clear in their communication. And the relationship between a driver and a crew chief is, you can't stress how important that is, right? The relationship between a driver and a crew chief. When a driver is very successful, oftentimes the crew chief is right in that talk, right? Kyle Larson and Paul Silva, Steve Kinzer and Scott Gherkin, or Carl Kinzer back in the day, Donnie Schatz and Ricky Warner, Eric and Brad Sweet. Those guys have built great relationships over time. Communication is very, very good, and your crew chief has to be a great communicator and a great leader. So those are things to look at. If you're a car owner, if you're a driver, you're responsible for hiring the next crew chief, or if you're a crew chief just maybe wanting to take the next step. From my experience and the great crew chiefs I've been around and worked around, those are things that they all do extremely, extremely well. If you haven't already, we have a shock seminar going on Saturday, February 15th. It's live here at Brownsburg. It's not filmed. We limit the amount of people that can come so we can have a lot of one-on-one time. It's roughly a 4 or 5 hour seminar. I think we have 5 spots left. So get signed up through our website, and we'd love to see you here in a few weeks. And hope you all have a good week, and we'll be back next week with another episode of Monday Morning Quarterback.